welcome to Live at the Ink Home Edition. Today's broadcast is brought to you by Evolution Sails, Sailing Evolved, VX1, the fastest growing one design in North America, Sailing Inc., Get It at the Ink, J-Boats. Sailing Inc. is the broadest reaching J-Boat dealer in North America. Also, be sure to stop by thesailinginc.com to see today's daily deal. Enjoy the show.
Evolution Sales would like to let you know that while we remain diligent in social distancing and virus aware, Evolution Sales is back to 80% in staffing and workflow worldwide. Our service teams are busy with repairs and canvas work while our production teams are working hard to fulfill our backlog of new sales for our cruising and racing customers. Our hope is to be back to 100% within a month and have our backlog caught up at the same time. Give your local Evolution Sales loft a call if you are interested in new sales or service. We are here to help.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to actually the 20th edition of Live at the Ink, Home Edition. It's been pretty crazy. I think we've been doing this for about 6 weeks now, and I just went back and counted it before we got Ed on the line, and I was like, holy cow, this is number 20. This is a big one. It all started with Mark Newman from South Carolina Yacht Club, just as, you know, we just kind of pulled it together real quick, and then suddenly people wanted to talk, and then we just kept going, and the guys down in New Zealand kept feeding me interview subjects, and it's just been cool. In fact, I feel a little bad now because our guest today, Ed Baird, he actually, when I emailed him and asked him about coming on today, he responded, "Well, I can't believe how many Aussies you had on before you called me." So I feel a little bad now, but we'll see if we can't make up for that today. But anyway, let me open up a quick little, hold on, let me slide this out of the way a little bit. I'm going to read this because, I'm sorry, but Ed just got a lot here. A quick bio on Ed. For 4 decades, Ed Baird has been a top-level competitor and coach in the sport of sailing. Recently admitted to the National Sailing Hall of Fame, Baird was the winning helmsman of America's Cup 32 aboard a Lingy and the 2007 ISAF Rolex World Sailor of the Year. He's a 15-time world champion, also part of the 1995 America's Cup winning team, Team New Zealand. Baird has raced in the Whipwreck Round the World race, won the Rolex Yachtsman of the Year award, and is the only American to ever reach number 1 on the ISAF World Match Racing rankings. A popular author and speaker, Baird did award-winning television commentary during the 2003 Louis Vuitton Challenger Series and the America's Cup for the host broadcaster, Television New Zealand. Most recently, Ed Baird has been the helmsman of the TP52 Quantum Racing winner of the 2011 Med Cup Series, the 2013, 2014, and 2016 52 Super Series, and 2011, 2014, 2016 TP52 World Championships. So obviously Ed's done a ton and has earned all the awards he's got. And on top of that, he is a super nice guy. I've spent many an hour sitting on the shore while our kids were out racing opties, just learning and chatting and having a good time. So let's see if we can't get him on the horn here. Here we go. Turn his mic on because we definitely want to hear him. Hey, Ed, how's it going?
Hey, Bill, all's good. I hope it's okay for you up in Charleston, not shut down too much by our quarantine timing.
Well, it does have us sitting at our kitchen table, so but we're having a good time with it. Doing our best. I really appreciate you taking some time, and I apologize I didn't call you first. I should have called you 6 weeks ago, I guess.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for doing this. It's fun to get everybody talking and thinking and remembering why we enjoy our sport so much.
Yeah, it is. It's been really cool because I think that's part of it right now is we're all kind of sitting here kind of sheltered in place and trying to figure out our next move, and at the same time it's we're just kind of we might as well just start talking about sailing and keep our minds on it. And even if we're not, doing the virtual racing or studying about tactics or something like that, at least we're hanging out at the bar just like we normally would, right? That's what these conversations are about, is sitting at the end of the bar, having a beer with our buddy and telling war stories. So we're going to get a few out of you today, I hope. And we'll see what we can pull together.
All right. Well, it is 5 o'clock happy hour on Friday afternoon. So
all right.
Started.
Absolutely. So I encourage you guys who are watching to grab a beer and enjoy. And while you're on there, please share this link and like as much as you want. And please use the comment section to ask Ed. He's ready to answer your questions. He says he'll answer anything for you. So go ahead and get it going. But I'm going to start with the same question I ask everybody: the who, what, where, when, and how. How'd you get started, Ed? Ooh. Actually, I didn't play the intro video. We'll skip the intro video. Maybe we'll play it at the end.
Okay. Well, I tell you, when I was a kid, my dad and his friends just really enjoyed the outdoors, and they drug me along. I was a late member of our family. My siblings are much older than I am. So I was almost like an only child, tagging way along behind. And I went with my parents and their friends, and we went camping, and we went out on rivers and learned how to use a canoe and a little rowboat, and then eventually small outboards. And I just loved being in the boats, any kind of boat. You put me in it, and I had so much fun just exploring and figuring stuff out. And by the time I turned about 9, my parents put me in the summer sailing program, and I already was very comfortable in boats, but not in sailboats. So, that was about that. And, from there, I sailed opties, but it wasn't anything like what you think of now as opties. Actually, a very famous young lady named Allison Jolly was about a year and a half ahead of me in our opti program. And the two of us, for those of you that don't know, Allison is a female gold medalist in the Olympics. She was 470 gold in 1988 in Korea. And she and I grew up sailing together as kids. And, at that time we were just having fun and figuring stuff out on the bay. But later on in our lives, both of us ended up in some pretty fun places. So from there, just did some 470s. Actually, 470s were a big boat, a big class when I was a late teenager, and so there were a lot of boats around our area, and I did that, and started sailing a little bit on keel boats where older club members were inviting me along, and because I was a reasonable youth sailor, and they invited me. And then they quickly found out I wasn't strong enough to do a lot of the roles they would like on board, but I could steer. And so they nicely enough let me steer these big, cool boats while they did all the work. Like, all right, that'll work.
That was easy.
A little bit and started doing all the roles on board. Everything from the bow to the trimming and everything, and you just learn while you explore. And got into some Olympic campaigns with the Soling. Sailed lasers for a while back in my early 20s, and ultimately got into match racing, which I really enjoyed. And the match racing led to the America's Cup, where I was invited to be part of Team New Zealand in 1995 with Russell Coutts and the gang. We were successful in San Diego. I went to New Zealand the next go around with the Young America team from New York Yacht Club. And we looked okay until we broke our boat in half one day, and that didn't help us very much, and that sort of set us on a downward spiral that we didn't come back from. Then the next cup, I did television commentary, as you just mentioned, and that was a lot of fun working with Peter Montgomery and all the hot shots that do TV down in New Zealand, and seeing the event. But most importantly, it was really interesting to hear all the onboard stuff, to hear how the different teams were communicating and reacting to things, and to be in the middle of the whole media circus of it without being under pressure to do something, correct in the media, that type of deal.
Right.
So I learned a lot.
So those boats were fully mic'd up, and you got to basically get to hear the live stream the whole time. It wasn't always broadcast, but you got to listen.
A lot going on, yeah. And it was just for me, it was fascinating because the whole team aspect of that event, or any of those big boat events, is amazing. Everyone on board was adding value, and you just heard the quick, easy, succinct communication, but very powerful. And you also learned a lot about people's personality. When things got tough, who was stepping up and who was getting angry, and those sorts of things. And so from there, I ended up getting invited to come and be part of Alinghi, which in 2007 we won the cup there. And since then, we did the cup in 2010 against Oracle, where they won against us in the big multi-hulls. And at that point, did a bunch of Meldris 32 stuff, some Meldris 20 stuff, a lot of coaching along the way. For the whole time that I did all this, I was coaching. And then I've been sailing TP52s and RC44s for the past 10 years and really enjoying those projects.
Yeah. I'm really impressed with actually both of those boats.
Bill, I'm not hearing you. If you're, I don't know if you muted yourself, but.
No, I don't think so. Oh.
No, I'm seeing you. I'm seeing you talking, and I'm not hearing what you're saying. Maybe it's just me.
That's not good. Go ahead and keep talking for a second. I'm going to get the crowd here to tell us if they can hear me. Keep talking.
I am not hearing you. So you want me to keep talking? Is that what you're trying to get happening? I see some of the text coming in. I see a neighbor of mine that says, hey to both of us, Bill Wright. We want to say hi to him. He's a good guy from our area down here in Tampa Bay and Florida. People from Marlborough Sounds in New Zealand saying hello. Wow, that's awesome. And we have a great message from Mary Hula, who says she can hear both of us. So I don't know why I'm not hearing you, but
can you hear me now?
I am not.
You can't hear me now.
Makes it hard for you to ask me questions.
Well, maybe it'll kick back on. Well, keep talking for a second, and let's see what happens here.
All right, in the TV, Pete Montgomery always told me that the only time you don't talk is when there's a lot of background noise on the boats, that you can hear what's going on there. Otherwise, the dead space makes people walk away. Oh no! Now you've taken your video away too.
Test. Can you hear me now?
No, I'm still not hearing you, Bill. I'm sorry. Oh, Mary says for me to keep talking. Well, I can start telling stories about Bill, and he can't say anything otherwise. So we start playing that way. So.
Oh man, this is not good.
Bill, why don't you think about? I don't know if you can type the messages up there the way that other people are coming in, but maybe we can talk that way. All right. Everybody says keep talking, Ed.
Yep.
Well, that's interesting. That's a first. Most of the time when I'm in group meetings, people say stop talking, and so. Well, I tell you, it's got to be tough for everybody right now, all over the world, with this whole shutdown. There's no racing anywhere. There's no training, which is also tough on people, and a lot of places are shut down so that you can't even get to your boat. And boy, it's just tough, tough, tough. And you really learn a lot about the sport, because we've got to be, traveling and planning and looking 2, 3, 4 months ahead to get everything set up. And right now, nobody knows what's going to happen 2 or 3 months from now. We don't know if we're going to be able to go or not. So, it's a tough time, but it's fun to be able to do these things. Now, I'm looking at the questions that are popping up over here. People saying they can hear both of us. And one of the most recent question is, what was the highlight of the 95 America's Cup? And boy, that's an interesting one, because the whole cup process was really fascinating. For a long time, I thought I was going to end up being involved with the Australian team. And then that finally didn't work out. And I just happened to run into Russell Coutts, literally ran into him walking around the corner of a building in Cowes at the Admirals Cup. And he said, "Hey, how's it going with the Australians?" And I told him that it had just fallen through. And he said, "Well, would there be any chance you'd come work with us?" So I was like, "Well, sure, I'd love to look at it." So we started talking, and at the same time, I was being talked to by one of the American teams, but they just didn't know if they were going to be able to actually have the funding to make it through. And so they told me that it would be better if I went to New Zealand. So I did, and off we went. Now, the first time I went to Auckland to go sailing was pretty entertaining. Russell, who is incredibly competitive, and I mean, just he'll compete with you in anything just to be competing. Of course, we sail against each other all the time in match racing, and he wanted to get me down there and do some training together. So we got set up, and he picked me up at the airport. And if traveling to Auckland from the U.S., you get in at 6 a.m, or at least you did back then. And he picked me up at the airport, took me to his house, and said, "Here, have a shower. We're leaving in half an hour to go start practicing." And I had just done a 22-hour trip from Florida to New Zealand. I was a little cooked. And I said, "Really, today?" And he goes, yeah, we're going to sail." And I said, "Well, all right, we'll give it a try. But, I've never sailed on one of these cup boats before. So, let me have a little time to figure it out." And he goes, "You'll be fine." So the first day off the plane, overnight, 6 a.m., we go to and we get the boats, take them out. And what he wants to do is practice starts. So not only have I never sailed one of the boats before, we're right into it with one of the best in the world, if not the best, saying, "Let's go start practice." So we did 30 practice starts that day, just, figuring it out. And it was wild. But I remember the amazing thing that I felt as soon as I got on the boat was just how impressive the teamwork was, the communication between these guys who had been together for the whole cup cycle already. They all knew each other, and I was just able to fit in and join in because they needed somebody to do the driving side. I didn't have to build the team or develop the techniques within the team. They all had it, and I was so impressed with that experience. That really challenged me to step up my own game, and I think that made a big difference in my future.
Right. You still can't hear me,
I see
right?
Bill's talking. I wish I could read your lips.
All right. It's
okay. Somebody's calling from New Zealand saying, talk about the Young America mishap. Well, the mishap was we were unfortunate enough in one race against the Nippon team from Japan. Um, it was in November in the Louis Vuitton. I guess it would have been the quarterfinal round or one of the third round of racing, but before the semis. We were unfortunate enough to have our race course set up in a northeast. Is that right? Yeah, northeast breeze that was from the open water, and we were the outer course, and the windward mark on our course was just a few hundred meters upwind of a place where the water depth dropped off from about 20, 25 meters and dropped down to about 45 meters. So the waves were really stacked up right there. And we got up near the weather mark second time around the course, and we were leading the Japanese by about 7 or 8 boat lengths, something like that. But we had to do one tack to get to the mark, and we were looking for a place that was smooth. We suddenly were sailing in big waves. Really, those boats didn't like that, and we had to tack on the ley line to get to the mark, or risk losing the race. And the guys were starting to get nervous that we needed to turn. So I tacked the boat, and it was just one of those deals where right as we tacked, the wave fell out from under us, and we hit the next one, and it broke the boat in half. Tough. It's just tough. Now let's see. I've got a note here to call you on a phone number, so I'm going to work on that while we're all thinking.
Thanks for bearing with us, guys. I know this is
Trying to call this number and put it on speaker is the idea. All right.
You should be able to hear me now, right?
I can hear you now, Bill.
Okay. So they can hear me just fine. So as long as I can ask you the question.
Yeah.
You may have. There you go. Again, I apologize for this. I'm not sure what's going on, if it's on my end or your end, but there's a lot of people on Zoom at 5 o'clock on a Friday, so there's probably a lot of bandwidth.
Well, look, it's the 20th. It's the 20th episode of your event. It's 2020, and there's a lot of people that are sort of hoping we can skip on to 21. So maybe that's part of what's happening here.
There you go. So John Henderson says, you were one of my youth heroes in lasers. How do you prepare mentally for a big race?
Well, that's an interesting one. I appreciate that you can remember back that far, John, to when I was sailing lasers. That was in the late 70s and early 80s. And I did win the Worlds in 1980, which is I was very proud of. That's the biggest number of competitors that they ever had in the Laser Worlds. It was about 350 competitors at that event. So that was very exciting to come out on top of that. And but shortly after that, I started sailing Solings. And but it was interesting because, you say, how do you prepare mentally before a big race? Well, back then, it was really just, every place we went seemed to be new. We were learning about venues, we're learning about equipment. You're always in a dinghy. You're always trying to take the next step forward to, learn ways to make the boat go better and to, make the equipment work a little differently. So it helps you. So there was a lot going on. But the nice thing at that Worlds was it was in Kingston, Ontario. And I remember being pretty comfortable there. I'd sailed 3 events in that same venue before and had an idea of what was going on, more than some other places that I'd been. So it helped me to relax. And I think probably one of the biggest things that I remember taking out from those days of sailing was the more comfortable I felt in a venue, the less worried I was about things like starting or which side of the race course to go to. It just calmed me down. So I'd say at that point in my life, how did I prepare? Well, it was really by trying to sail in a venue, more than just the racing time, and to learn what it was all about. People always talked about, you got to use local knowledge and get the local guy to help you out, and I always found that as soon as we arrived for a big event, you know what I'm going to say next. The locals always said, well, it's never like this. So, and they often didn't sail in the same area that we raced the bigger events in. So, I found that wasn't very helpful, but getting there myself just helped to learn about it. Now, now things are different, where I've been to a lot of these venues that we race in many, many times before. So now it's more about, getting the team ready for the day, getting the thinking of the day organized. And I guess one thing that I do a lot of coaching for young sailors about is, early in the day, when you know what kind of day it's going to be, you can, before you ever leave the dock, you can start your planning. Whereas if it's going to be a shifty day, it's going to be a crazy shifty, a lot of big wind shifts back and forth, or that type of a day, you better be in a place that you can tack and make do with the wind shifts. And if it's going to be a steady day, then you better place yourself somewhere where you can use your boat speed, and you got to work real hard to be fast, because the shift is going to be a smaller part of the race. So those are things that we think about now, even before leaving the dock. And then really it's just a matter of reminding our teams, and this is a big one, we remind ourselves what it takes to reach the level of success in the event that we want. If it's winning, what's the average score that's going to get us there? If it's finishing in the top 10, what do we need to finish on average to get there, and not feel like we're going out to try and win every race, because that doesn't always do the best for you.
Yeah. So I just typed this in. You mentioned different venues, and now that you've been to a few of them, do you keep a logbook for these venues? Just to kind of remind yourself, the breeze is out of here and the trend is this, and I can kind of know what's coming. And then the second part of that question is, how do we get our hands on that book?
Yeah, well, I was in school. I was always one of the guys who didn't take that many notes, but I paid really close attention, and that's just how my brain works. Okay. I could remember better if I really paid attention to the instructor than if I was listening but sort of writing it down in a hurry, trying to write notes. And I found that left me with the notes that weren't quite perfect and a memory that wasn't quite perfect, and that was hurtful. And I think that's just how my brain operates. So I don't really have a logbook of particular venues, but you'd be surprised how accurate I can remember. If it's in this, this wind quadrant, this is what happens. And if it's in that wind quadrant, this is what happens. And when the current's going this way, we got to go over here. And, just because I try really hard to pay attention and figure it out with the guys. But on top of that, I also sail on a lot of projects where you're using everybody on the team. It's not just my notes that are important. It's the whole group that has to agree on what's happening next. And so, it's interesting. So you can't get your hands on the logbook. I'm sorry, but it's everybody's different. And I have seen people that have tremendous notes and they use them effectively. And I've seen other people that have tremendous notes and they forget and leave them in the car. So you got to commit to which way you're going to take after you're racing and try to figure it out.
Absolutely. So Lindsay Hallcrow, she was on the other day when we had Chris on, and she's asking the same question. Who's your favorite jib
trimmer? So Lindsay Hallcrow wants to know who my favorite jib trimmer is. Now, of course, that's a very delicate question. Lindsay, your husband Roscoe is a tremendous jib trimmer, and I know you're really proud of him. And in the 1995 Cup, he was sailing a lot on my boat, and we really got to be great friends and trusted each other on the race course wonderfully. However, I haven't sailed with him that much in the last sort of 15 years. And, I can't tell you if he's still the best out there. Maybe there's some other guys that are close, and certainly I have a lot of good friends that I'm sailing with now who are very, very talented as well. And so I'm not going to tell you who my favorite is, but I do really enjoy Roscoe. He's a great guy, and I know that you are enjoying being at all these events with us. So we're happy that you're able to come.
So I just want to tell a little, just kind of a side note on this. You're sailing a lot in the 52s, and you're sailing a lot in the RC 44s, but you were also part of the original keel boat.
Hey, Bill, I'm sorry, but if you can hear me, it's getting hard to hear you through the microphone. There you go.
How about now?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
So back in the day, you were sailing the America's Cup in some really cool boats. Even before the multi-hulls. You're one of those guys that I think of when I think of proper sailors, right? That are smart enough to get these big old boats around the race course. And the cool thing is you've kind of stuck with that. You're still racing the TP52 and you're still racing the RC44, and these are semi-displacement, I guess, keel boats that take more brains than I don't want to take anything away from the foiling guys. It's a whole different story. I'm not, I've said this numerous times on numerous broadcasts, but I'm the traditionalist, and I love the old style dial up. And I love the fact that we've got to horse these big boats around the race course. And you've been a part of that all the way through. And I think it's really cool. How do you feel about all that between the big displacement boats and the now foiling boats that are flying?
Well, we're trying really hard to get the 52 foiling. It's on our list. But you're right. I mean, there's one of the great things about our sport is there's something for everyone. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're good at. There's a place that you can enjoy it in our sport. So I'm fortunate that there are places for me to go race like this that put a priority or an emphasis on the thoughtfulness of how you approach each race. But I'm also really excited to see just how many places there are where you got to be strong and athletic and then there's other places where you don't have to be any of those things. I mean, you could go RC boat racing and you don't have to get on the boat at all. And have a lot of fun and really challenge yourself out in the conditions. So, it's a great sport that way. There is no other like sailing, and I know that's making a lot of people really anxious to get back out there right now because everybody wants to get back on the water.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate your candor in that. It's my idols have always been the America's Cup guys, the Whitbread guys, the guys that are sailing with big teams on big boats, and they're able to keep 18 guys all working in mesh. And I watched your video the other night where you were talking to your pit guy. I can't remember his name. I should be able to remember it. But
yeah, Rodney Ardern.
Yeah, I mean, you've been sailing with Rodney forever, so you know how he's going to act, and he knows what you need from him, and he's kind of that crew boss who's kind of choreographing everything around him, and it just seems so cool. You guys need to go back and listen to that because it really shows, and I'm sure there's going to be more videos like this, but the pit guy is so key because he's kind of in the middle of the boat. He's passing the word. He's doing the cleanup, and he's making sure that Ed's happy and got the information that he needs, making sure the bow guy's got the information that he needs, and pulling up the slack, literally pulling up the slack. So,
yeah, Rodney is a great example. I mean, there's a guy who very intelligent, but also very athletic, very strong. He was my main trimmer when we were successful winning the catamaran circuit that we did back in 2008 as we prepared for the America's Cup in multi-hulls. And Rodney was on the main. We had those extreme 40s that we were sailing, in the extreme sailing circuit. And he was main trimmer on that boat. I mean, I've seen him do the mast. I've seen him trimming. I've seen him, obviously now he's doing the pit for us in the 52. And I know that he can drive a boat just fine. And he loves going offshore just as much as he likes the inshore stuff. And he's had an opportunity to do all those things. And so it's great fun. But as you say, that the being part of the sort of calibration and the organization of a team on the water is so fun. I mean, I sailed by myself for a lot of time in my laser, but sailing in a team with several people or a dozen or 20 people is another challenge in the sport that for me, I've really enjoyed doing it. And I've enjoyed the people that we've gotten to know in those projects. I mean, you really put some intense time in next to these guys, when you do these big boat projects. Last year, a great one was the Cannonball that we did, the Maxi 72, and here's a whole bunch of Italian and Spanish and, as well as English and US and Kiwi guys all together on this one program just for 1 year. But, we all knew each other, but we didn't know each other as well as we got to know each other when we were on the same boat, working hard day by day, going to debriefs, having breakfast together, all those things. Really fun.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Let's move on to a couple other subjects. Obviously, you and I are of similar age. You might be just a little bit older than me, but our boys kind of came up through youth sailing around the same time. How are they doing in their sailing careers?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. I mean, I had 3 boys, and they all sailed. The oldest didn't follow up with it into university as much as the younger 2. But the younger 2 they both had great careers in college sailing, and now are they've graduated now, and they're looking to expand their horizons out into the sport. The youngest one is doing a lot of different projects, I guess. He's going to sail a 52 this summer in the U.S. stuff. He's going to be, he's trying to do some match racing. He's done a little bit of offshore stuff. He's just learning about that. The middle one is actually working for Quantum Sales now in the marketing department. And he's also doing J70 stuff, as is the younger one. So they're out of university, and they've gotten through the whole junior program thing, and now exploring what the opportunities are out in the sport. And there's a lot. So it's good fun.
Yeah, that's really awesome. It's awesome that they're still doing it. Jordan's kind of doing the same thing. He graduated this year, and he's working for Sailing Inc. and doing some marketing. And
getting hard to hear you again. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I keep setting my phone down. Again, I apologize for the sound thing, guys. But yeah, Jordan's working in the loft and doing some marketing too for Sailing Inc. and doing really well and doing a lot of sailing still. He was the captain of the offshore team. So, and I think they get to hang out a little bit at different events. So it's pretty cool to see them from get to where they were in the Oppies up to where they are now. So it's good stuff. So Lindsay wants to know, when are the boys, and I'm assuming she means the big boys, going sailing again and getting out of the house?
Yeah, well, I'm a bit surprised, Lindsay, that you're trying to get rid of your husband. You just told me how wonderful he was, and now you're trying to kick him out. But yeah, we're all wondering that same answer. Events that we had on our calendars have been canceled, basically March through for sure June, maybe July. Hopefully we can get back out in the things that we do in August. But we don't know. And that's one of the difficulties, especially with the 52s, the RC44s, other big boats that are racing around Europe or North America up in the MAC races, things like that. They're big enough projects that you can't just plan 3 or 4 weeks ahead. You got to plan 8 and 10 and 12 weeks ahead. And that's too uncertain right now. So, all those events are really tenuous at the moment, and hopefully they'll come together and we'll start sailing. I know there's a lot of interest by people who have had to postpone events to go ahead and push them into the fall in the Northern Hemisphere. And so, hopefully some of the things that we've missed in May and June and July will pop up as an alternate event in, September, October, November.
Where are, like, I guess the Super Series fleet? Where would that fleet be now? Where are they all paused and sitting?
Yeah, well, that was a real question mark until about 10 days ago. The fleet was in Cape Town when all of this shutdown started out around the world. And we actually had people that were down there with the boats that were unable to get home. We had other people who had gotten home who were unable to come back and help to move the boats. Cape Town, actually South Africa, shut down, as did much of the world's borders. And the boats were all there with all their containers, with the chase boats, everything. We were expecting to do a second event at the very end of March into the beginning of April, and that got canceled. Next event was supposed to be in May, and that got canceled, and another one in June, that got canceled. So, but the boats just sat in Cape Town. And fortunately, eventually, the Cape Town port made it possible for some of our boat captains from the fleet to lead some of the longshoremen from the port and get everything put onto a ship that had been sitting there for weeks, that the owners were paying to have sit there waiting to get the port opened up. And they all are on their way back to Valencia. Now, we don't know if Valencia is open yet, and they may have to just do circles or anchor in the Med, waiting to get on shore. And then we don't know where they're going to go next. But the good thing is that the whole fleet is together. They're not trapped anywhere at the moment. And wherever we get an opening to bring them all in, we'll be able to put the group together and then start thinking about racing.
Wow, that's amazing. So do you guys charter a ship, or does the class own a ship?
No, it's I mean, you hire a ship to take the boats, and so they have had a relationship with the shipping companies, and we have had the same ship deliver the boats several times. But I think that this was a different one this time, but I might be wrong on that. Anyway, the point is that we didn't have control of our own equipment as long as the borders were shut down. Now they're at least back into the hands of our boat captains and heading towards the Med, where we hope to have some racing later in the year.
Yeah, hopefully that gets to happen. And it's the hard part is we may be able to move from state to state here in the U.S., but it's whether or not we can send big groups across across the ocean and go from country to country. It's just going to be a matter of time before they can kind of open that up. We'll see how that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Lindsay's back again. She wants to know what's the key in any relationship, Ed? Like consistency is to winning regattas.
Yeah, she says balance is the key to the relationship. She's talking about getting rid of her husband. She wants that balance. That's what she's talking. But no, she's sweet to keep talking to us here, and we always enjoy having Lindsay at our events. It's fun to have her there cheering on Roscoe, and it's fun to beat Roscoe when we can, so that we can come in and have her tell us how he's going to beat us tomorrow.
He's sailing with Chris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he sails with Platoon.
Oh, he does. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wrong on that. Well, is there anything else you want to get out there to the group? Obviously, we've still got a bunch of people here, but we're obviously having some communication issues, so it makes it a little bit difficult to answer any questions. But in this kind of odd time right now, is there anything you'd like to pass on to the sailing world? Because there's a lot of people out there.
Well, I probably want to say more than anything else that I'm excited at how many creative techniques I've seen people come up with for training, for doing things like this, for teaching, and just for keeping involved while this whole thing has shut down. It's super exciting to see the energy, the enthusiasm, the just the commitment to the sport that people have. There's an awful lot of people that have figured out some way to go online and race against each other in online races. There's an awful lot of people that have planned projects. While we've been sitting at home, they've said, "All right, let's get this project set up for next year and get it going." And they've made the whole thing come together. And it's just, it's a can-do attitude, and nobody's going to keep us down, sort of stuck in quarantine for long. And it's great to keep seeing. I see every day people on Facebook and other online media who are friends of mine that are traveling the world on their boats and sending back videos of what's going on and what they're experiencing, and doing a daily report. It's really fun. So I know that everybody is frustrated to be stuck where we are, and I know we're all excited to get out on the water again soon. But I am very impressed with how many people and how many unique ways there have been to keep things going in the sport.
Yeah, and it's the good news is we're gonna come back, and it's gonna get back to the point that where we can sit at the bar and chat with each other. We might not be able to sit shoulder to shoulder anymore. They may have to move the bar stools apart a little bit, but I think we're going to get back there soon. And I know we're all itching to do it. I mean, it seems really odd that, we haven't been at the bar at the yacht club lately, but it almost seems like we've been there because we've been able to talk to so many friends through these type of venues. So.
Well, and Bill, I think I'll speak for everybody listening here that we want to thank you for putting this together. It's really, it's just special to be able to sit around and talk to each other about our sport. And, you're the one who's making that happen, and we appreciate it.
Well, I enjoy doing it, so I want to keep doing it as much as I can. And I appreciate you taking the time, especially right now. I know there's some things going on at the house, and you need to get back to her. But we'll let you go here in a second. But thank you for coming, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And Lindsay, holy cow, maybe I just need to interview Lindsay this weekend.
Well, we got to get off the phone so I can go trash talk her here, because she's trying to pull out some old results here and tell me that Roscoe is somehow on top. But good fun.
All right, Ed. Well, we appreciate your time, and hopefully we see you on the water here very, very soon.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Bill, and thanks for everybody for coming and being part of this. We'll really do want to get on the water soon. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Ed. Bye. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in today. I apologize for the microphone or speaker issue, whichever it is, but I'm glad you guys could at least hear me. And we were able to, chat with Ed for a little while. And if you have any more questions for Ed that we didn't get out, please put them in the chat box, because we will be monitoring this for the next 24 to 48 hours, and I'll get a hold of them and see if we can't get the answers. Yes, Lindsay, who won the Worlds? I see that popping up still. Although Chris would probably say that if they hadn't lost the rig on the first day, they probably would have won the Worlds. But anyway, again, thanks for tuning in. If you don't follow Evolution Sales USA and or Evolution Sales New Zealand, please do so on Facebook. That's really the way we track all this, and we want to know that we're reaching everybody, and it'll also let you know when we're going to go live again, and it's probably going to be Monday. I'm not actually sure who the guest is going to be, but Rodney says he's got somebody great lined up, so it should be a good time. And anyway, have a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you very soon on the water.
Evolution Sales would like to let you know that while we remain diligent in social distancing and virus aware, Evolution Sales is back to 80% in staffing and workflow worldwide. Our service teams are busy with repairs and canvas work while our production teams are working hard to fulfill our backlog of new sales for our cruising and racing customers. Our hope is to be back to 100% within a month and have our backlog caught up at the same time.
My parents had a small keelboat, and I went on that when I was, 4 or 5 years old. And I was always nervous when the boat would start to lean over because I didn't understand what was happening. I did a lot of dinghy sailing, and I was driving the boat all the time when I was younger. And then as I got into bigger boats, you naturally take a step back and have to learn the other positions on board. And on top of that, for me, I did a lot of coaching, to try and help people improve in dinghy fleets and things around home where I live. Been the bowman before, I've done the mast, I've done trimming, jibs, spinnakers, mainsails. I've worked as a strategist, as a tactician, as a driver. The very first time that I was a tactician, I really don't remember. I was normally trimming, but I was looking around the course and talking about what's coming, and I think that's where the tactician role came from.